Swiss fudge, delicious cookies baked with no butter fat.
Let's make a world of difference right at home.
TV 10 is right at home with you.
Now, from TV 10, Action News.
Good evening. Capital District residents woke up to an incredible sight this morning, a scene resembling January rather than early October.
I'm Marcy Elliott, joining Greg Floyd for a special expanded edition of Action News. A freak snowstorm dumped a half a foot of heavy, wet snow at the Albany County Airport, with even heavier amounts in the higher elevations. Now, it is the earliest substantial snowfall on record in the history of the Capital District. The snow brought traffic to a halt, with police warning people to stay home. Close to 200,000 homes were plunged into darkness as the wet snow forced tree limbs down onto power lines. The storm also wreaked havoc with public transportation, with a number of people left stranded. We'll have complete reports on all those aspects of the storm later on.
About 170,000 Niagara Mohawk customers are without power, with outages just about everywhere in the area. Action News reporter Doug Myers has been covering the story all day, and he joins us now in Colony, where NYMO crews are working to restore power. Doug?
Greg, the problem hit me firsthand this morning. I had to feel through the closet to find something warm. This felt warm. It turned out to be a ski sweater on the 4th of October. Who would ever think? We're here on the corner of Osborne and Knoxon in the old Loudonville section, which is still without power. This is one of over 100 NYMO line crews now working to restore power in the Capital District. I go back to 1964, a huge ice storm that struck the Capital District. It was a winter wonderland back then to a 20-year-old. Today, what I see is disaster in this area. NYMO officials are telling me right now that that ice storm in 64 is quite comparable to this great snowstorm of October 1987. But back then, they weren't as prepared to handle it as they are today.
It has been a day police, firemen, and ambulance crews in this greater Capital District will not soon forget. Their switchboards have been jammed with calls of wires down, cars off the road, people injured. Typical is this small fire in DeFreeseville, where people have been without power since morning. Officials say a fireplace being used for emergency heat touched off this blaze. For the volunteer fire department here, it's been non-stop work.
It started about 9:30 last night for us, and we've had about 2 hours rest since.
How many calls have you had?
I'd estimate right now about 40 since 9 o'clock last night.
The job of restoring power here in the Capital District rests in this storm room of Niagara Mohawk Power Corporation in North Albany. The walls are covered with maps, the maps covered with pieces of paper indicating that power is out. At this hour, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, about 160,000 people are without power. And lest you may think Niagara Mohawk is immune, the power has also gone out here 1 or 2 times.
See how many crews he can put together. Target 6 to 10 from that outfit for Hudson.
NYMO's Mike Cahill had scheduled a golf match today. Now he's matching wits with Mother Nature.
Are you losing towers and poles and everything?
We're losing distribution lines. We're losing the service wires in the homes, and we're losing the major transmission lines as well. You name it, if it's in the air, we're having trouble with it coming down.
What are you doing to get the power back on? Crews, where are they coming from? How many?
We have crews right now coming in from Syracuse, Utica, Potsdam, Watertown, New Jersey. We are working on crews coming from the western part of the state.
Power is crucial. Here at Child's Hospital, a pole carrying primary power into the nursing home fell to the ground. Emergency generators kicked in, but the heat has been off here since 7:30 this morning. Staff members have spent the day keeping the 100 residents warm.
What it means for the hospital is a lot less electricity, and we have auxiliary power with less lights and less heat. Right now we're keeping the nursing home patients quite warm with numerous blankets.
This portable generator was powering just the few lights at this hardware store on Route 4. Inside, customers stocking up, buying whatever they could to stay warm and provide light.
How much did it cost you today for light and heat?
Close to $50 for this, plus the firewood at home. I don't want to add that in, because that's been going all day long.
There's going to be lots of firewood after this storm, and people are buying the big-ticket items like chainsaws to clear the limbs that have fallen.
How many chainsaws have you sold today?
We stopped counting over about 35, 40. We stopped.
Has this been a good day for you?
Excellent. Excellent day.
Many stores were left without power. This convenient put ice cream on sale. But first to go was the bread.
I'm here because we need bread. It's pretty quiet at home without television. And we walk down here for something to do. We can't get our car out. So that's why we're here. We're starving, of course, with nothing to do. Everybody's hungry.
How long can you last?
Oh, I don't know. I think we can make it till morning.
And a lot of us in this Capital District are going to have to tough it out until morning when the power gets back on. With me now, Ray Hull of the Niagara Mohawk Power Corporation. How bad is it, Ray?
Well, it's about as bad as many of our old-timers have seen since they've been with the company. With 171,000 customers affected, that was around 2 o'clock. We'd like to think that a good many of them are starting to come back on now. The bad predictions are for the Columbia County area. However, we're telling people to be prepared to maybe have to go through morning without power.
A lot of people say, my power's not back on, and they're worried. Maybe they're one of a couple people on the street. How do you put power back on in a situation like this?
Well, as you can see going on in the background here, it's basically a tree trimming operation, and then we have to sometimes restring the wires. But basically, our concern right now is getting as many people back on with one operation as possible. So if we can fix a primary line, such as they're working on behind us here, this line, one line, can bring on a whole block or two of people.
I would imagine this is going to be quite an expense also for the power company.
Well, it's something, of course, that we budget for. We have a contingency budget for just this kind of thing. But I would say that, yes, it's part of the business.
That's it. We're here once again in the Old Loudonville section. I simply toured this a few minutes ago, Marcy and Greg, and the side roads here, the Upper Loudon Road, Osborne Road, it's simply devastating. People are out trying to clear some of the debris, but their property, the trees, it's just a tremendous loss for them all.
Hey, Doug, we thank you for that report. And now to explain the reason for all of this unseasonable weather, here is meteorologist Greg Playford. Greg?
Thank you, Marcy. It certainly has been a tough day indeed. Let's put it in the record books. Again, it's another record. Today, 7 inches of snow is the earliest on record of at least a half an inch or more. There have been flurries during the early parts of the season, but when you get to measuring or measurable snow, half inch or more, the previous record way back in 1925, October 10th. Let's look at some of the snowfall amounts. First, the satellite map shows you basically from Albany to the west, it's starting to break up. We're a little bit on the unlucky side of this also in the fact that if we had clearing skies a little bit earlier, we would have had much more of a snow melt. But the sun will be setting in another 20, 30 minutes or so. The storm system is moving off in the Gulf of Maine. Now, the reason we had the very heavy snow amounts, this is a storm system that moved off the Atlantic City coast and the New Jersey coast late last evening. Some of the higher hill terrain around here, starting at about 9 or 10 o'clock, were reporting some very heavy wet snow. So there was no doubt about it that there'd be enough cold air at the higher elevations to get a good amount of snowfall from it. But what happened is that instead of the storm system moving fairly quickly up to the northeast through the Gulf of Maine into the Maritimes, it intensified and moved very slowly. So it did, in fact, pull the cold air around it. It had the moisture source. It's in the Atlantic Ocean. There's plenty of moisture there. And with the cold air at the higher elevations and then finally down at the surface where much of us are, that's what triggered off the heavy amounts of snow. And a very, very high water content. The Albany County Airport reported about 6.5 or almost 7 inches of snow, but they had 2.82 inches of water equivalent rainfall in that amount. Now, there's a rough equivalent of 10 to 1. In other words, 1 inch of rain, most of the time, under normal circumstances, will give you 10 inches of snow. 2.82 inches of water would then about give you 29 inches of snow. The airport only measured just about 7 inches, so you can see it's that very heavy, wet, soggy precipitation. The higher hill country certainly did get clobbered. Grafton, not that far away from the Albany County Airport, just across the river and up in elevation, 19 inches of snow. Berlin, 13. Westerlo, Al Tedeschi checked in once he could get shoveled out and find his telephone, 18 inches. So again, it's the higher elevations that did have the heavy amounts of snowfall. But again, just about everybody got clobbered, and the situation was certainly made worse by the fact there are a lot of leaves still on the trees. The snow could not fall to the ground, and the branches got heavy, and they fell. We'll have a complete forecast, and of course, it's a good weather forecast coming up for the beginning of the work week. That only makes sense. I'll be back in a little while.
Okay, Greg, thank you. Well, today's surprise snowstorm created nothing less than a traveling nightmare for those people on the roads around the Capital District. State police are still advising no unnecessary travel at this hour, as disabled vehicles and downed power lines are making plowing and cleanup a tough task. Action News reporter Kathy Gazda has more.
There was really only one way to describe what most of us saw when and if we ventured out on this Sunday morning.
I can't believe it. I'm just astonished.
Mother Nature had certainly caught motorists by surprise. With snow piling up, power lines coming down, and trees sprawled across countless roads, traveling was treacherous along some stretches, impossible along others. Now, travelers who thought they'd play it safe by sticking to the main roads were in for quite a rude awakening when they headed east on I-90 out of Albany. Traffic back up here, that's what occurred when the State Thruway Authority closed the Berkshire Spur. Right now, we're in the town of Skodak, and that's a good 4 miles from the interchange. But for the most part, authorities were telling people to just stay home. It would be a while before things were anywhere near normal. Highway crews were doing their best, but...
It was a real surprise, believe me. I believe just about everybody got caught with their trousers down in this storm.
Most people seem to take the advice of the experts. Traffic along this usually busy section of Wolf Road was sparse. The only crowd we found was here at the Wolf Road Diner. With massive power outages throughout the area, this was the only game in town for Sunday brunchers and for those who were just tired of fighting the roads. Most seem to be taking the whole storm situation in stride. After all, if you spend any time in the great Northeast at all, you know one thing is for sure. If you don't like the weather, just wait a minute. Kathy Gazda, TV 10 Action News in Albany.
There were some real headaches at the Albany County Airport today. The power went out there, forcing a complete shutdown for several hours.
The only things moving at the Albany County Airport were the snowplows.
I'm sorry, the airport is closed. We have no power.
The power went out just after 9 a.m., leaving the entire airport in the dark. No computer terminals, no runway lights, no way for the airport to function.
Walk outside at the airport, and this is what you see. Planes covered with snow and ice, just sitting there, not going anywhere.
Nothing was coming in, nothing was going out, and that meant for a lot of stranded travelers.
This is our honeymoon. We were married at 3 o'clock yesterday, and we just came here. We've been here since 6 a.m.
And no honeymoon in sight.
No honeymoon in sight, no.
The Davises managed to get booked on a flight out of Newark and left quickly for the drive to New Jersey. They were among the lucky ones.
This is ridiculous, October 4th. It is Albany, but still, no snow. No snow in Atlanta, hopefully.
You ever come in Albany again?
I don't know. It's doubtful.
So everyone did their best to cope. At the U.S. Air ticket counter, they used candles to make the best of a bad situation. About the only thing that did work at the airport was the phone. It never stopped ringing, and everyone had the same questions.
Whether or not the airport is open, whether flights are coming and going, and whether they can have someone caged. The answer to all, no.
Now, the airport has reopened. They resumed service just after 2:30 this afternoon, and the latest word is that most flights are running on schedule. As for other modes of transportation going in and out of the Capital District, Amtrak trains are still running and have been throughout the day. Amtrak says their latest information is that most of the trains going through the Albany Rensselaer stations are running about 20 minutes late. Buses, though, are having a good deal more trouble. Greyhound says everything northbound out of Albany has been canceled for the rest of the night. Everything eastbound has been shut down for most of the day, but eastbound service should resume sometime this evening. Westbound buses are running about 1 hour late, and everything to the south is still on schedule.
Amazing, right?
It's just
really?
One headache after another. It's
my
unbelievable.
goodness. Just ahead, though, on Action News, something to worry about if the heat doesn't come back on, and that is hypothermia.
And the storm strikes Columbia County hard with the loss of life and power. A live report next.
A lot of surprises are hitting the road this year, and you can only get them at your Capital Region Honda dealers. Like the totally redesigned Honda Prelude with a sleek low profile. In the SI, a new fuel-injected engine with 20% more horsepower. And the biggest surprise, the SI 4WS, four-wheel steering, handling like no other car you've ever driven. The incredible new Honda Prelude, the first surprise to hit the road from your Capital Region Honda dealers. Stay tuned.
It always surprises me when people are unhappy with their bank and don't do anything about it. Changing banks is much easier than most people think. After all, service is what we're about. In the end, all the advertising in the world and all the promises don't mean a damn if you don't deliver. We know that. We live it every day.
From the mountainous Abruzzi region of central Italy comes the inspiration for a hearty beef and pork pasta sauce called Classico d'Abruzzi. And because in Italy pasta sauces differ from region to region, from Naples there's a robust tomato and basil Classico di Napoli. And from Sicily, a zesty ripe olive and mushroom Classico di Sicilia. The regional tastes of Italy brought to America. Classico, authentic regional pasta sauces.
If you're looking for a better variety of music that's not too hard and not too soft, this is the place, K-Light 101. On K-Light 101, you'll hear better music, better variety, and more of it by artists like Whitney Houston, Huey Lewis, Smokey Robinson, The Four Tops, and Carly Simon. No hard rock, no sleepy elevator music. Just more of what you like with fewer interruptions. So for a better variety of music that's not too hard or too soft, set your radio to 100.9 FM, K-Light 101.
Bruce Jenner joins people who quite literally cross the country with no money. No cash, no credit cards. Meet him next on Here.
There is a very good chance that many school kids in the Capital District will have an unexpected holiday tomorrow. The city of Albany has announced that all public schools in the city will be closed tomorrow. Again, no public school in Albany tomorrow. As of now, we understand there will be school in Schenectady and Troy. However, power failures at individual schools could change all that. We will update the school closing situation at 11, but a lot of those decisions probably will not be made until the morning.
Well, Greg, what appears to be the hardest hit area by this freak storm is Columbia County, where 2 people have died as a result of the snow. Action News reporter Bob Lawson is standing by live in Hudson with the very latest. Bob?
Marcy, thank you very much. You heard Ray Hull say earlier that Columbia County was the worst off from the power point of view. This was also the place where the storm packed deadly power. 2 men were killed about 8:30 this morning in separate incidents here in Columbia County. Robert Lupsky, a 49-year-old East Meadow, Long Island man, was leaving Camp Wabika in Kobake when he was hit on the back of the neck by a falling tree and was killed. At just about the same time, 46-year-old Ralph Alaka of Blue Point, New York, was killed when a tree fell on the passenger side of the car that he was riding in. That happened on Route 295. Now let's take a look at some of the pictures of destruction here in Columbia County today. Here a typical scene, but the worst was yet to come. When these were taken, people still had power. But around 9:30 this morning, there was a major transmission line and the stanchions that support it, 4 of them, that fell in the town of Greenport, just outside of Hudson. That is what knocked out power here to most of Hudson and also the surrounding area. In fact, people have been telling us as the day progressed that Columbia County is tonight basically a county without power. There were all sorts of other problems. Outside now, it's relatively pleasant here, but earlier today, it was unbelievably bad. In fact, a ride that takes 40 minutes normally from Albany to Hudson took me 3 hours today. Joining me now is Marty Tazinski. He is the man who is overseeing the emergency operations here in Columbia County tonight. Marty, could you give us an overview? How are things right now?
Well, actually, they're a little better than they were earlier today. Our biggest concern right now is housing for those that are without power. We've set up temporary shelters in every firehouse in Columbia County where they have generators that are able to provide the power. For those who are not able to travel to these fire homes and are in need of specialized care, we've made arrangements with every nursing home in the county to house them. Our concern right now is that we're in need of additional cots and blankets. We have over 250 cots and blankets out in the fire homes now. We have another 200 that are being sent to us through SEMO.
Do you think there are enough facilities now that everyone who needs shelter, needs food this evening, can be provided for?
There's no question about it. Where the Red Cross is here on the scene, we have food available in the shelters. Our only concern is reaching those people that need our help.
Quickly, Marty, do you have any words of warning for people who might be staying in their homes of things not to do to cope with their situation?
Yes, if you don't have heat, I would suggest that you contact the Columbia County Sheriff's Department at 828-3344. We're standing by with vans and drivers to pick them up, to take them to places where it's warm.
Okay, Marty, thank you very much. We'll let you get back to work. One other point we might add, Greg, is that coming down here today and throughout Columbia County now, we are told that only one gas station in the whole county is open, and that is to service emergency trucks. So if you're traveling through this area, it is very, very difficult to get gas, and I guess that probably applies to most of the Capital District. Back to you, Greg.
It certainly does, Bob. It's been a problem all over. Now, Action News reporter Pauline Liu was also in hard-hit Columbia County today. She is here now with more. Pauline?
Greg, as we just heard, Columbia County has been declared a state of emergency. It's essentially without power, and many areas are without water. Trees down by heavy snow not only pulled down power lines, but made some roads barely passable. Most residents chose to stay home, but in the case of Mickey Haywood of Hudson, he couldn't get out even if he wanted to. His front lawn and 2 cars were clobbered by trees and just missed hitting his home.
I'm feeling like I got a mess here to start with and don't know where to start. Just unbelievable, the weather. A little snow flurry sure turned into a mess.
In Greene County, a state of emergency has also been declared. The Sheriff's Department says that about 20 roads have been shut down. Much of that county has also been left without electricity or water. 20 National Guardsmen stationed in Leeds have been hospitalized for frostbite, and 500 people are stuck at the North Lake State campsite in Hunter until snowplows arrive. And we're told, Greg, that there's 2 feet of snow at that campsite. They can't get through right now. Last thing we heard is that they're still stranded.
And you had a tough time driving, too. You saw a lot of trees down.
It was really hard. No place to park, no way to get around. We got stuck a lot.
Okay, thanks, Pauline. Marcy?
Yes, thank you. Well, hypothermia is a real problem when the temperatures start to drop. Older people and the very young tend to be easier targets for hypothermia or low body heat. Dr. Michael Rominger of Albany Medical Center tells me one way to prevent the loss of body heat is to dress warmly, get to a place that is heated, and don't forget to eat properly. This will ensure that your body manufactures the energy needed to stay warm. As for symptoms...
Well, early on, the first symptom would be just a sensation of becoming cold and shivering and shaking and chattering teeth, things like that. But as the temperature continues to fall, other things can occur, one of them being just a decrease in your ability to think well, and you lose your powers of good judgment. As the temperature continues to fall even further, particularly if you get below the level of, say, 90 degrees Fahrenheit, the actual shivering and shaking can disappear. So if you find somebody who's not shaking, who is lethargic or stuporous, that could well be due to hypothermia.
Then unconsciousness hits and possibly death. Our normal body temperature is around 98.6, and Dr. Rominger says that it's even possible to get hypothermia when it's 80 degrees outside, which I could not understand, but although obviously wintertime is the primary time that this problem tends to crop up. Because remember, 80 degrees is still about 18 degrees below what our body temperature normally is.
Now, he's talking about people who are outside, but even people inside, it might not be real cold tonight, but for the elderly and whatnot, it could be a rough night tonight.
You want to get to where there is some heat somehow.
Well, Marcy, as we have been telling you throughout the day, most counties in our TV10 viewing area have declared states of emergency. Now, special phone numbers have been set up for information about shelters and for people with severe power emergencies, people that we just spoke of. In Albany County, you can call 465-8686. In Columbia County, the phone number is 828-3344. The emergency number in Greene County is 943-2515. In Montgomery County, you can call 853-3113. In Rensselaer County, the emergency number is 270-5252. One number not appearing on your screen there, that is the number in Colony. That number is 783-2809. Most places have set up these numbers so you can call, and if indeed you are elderly or you know someone who is elderly or someone who is young, or if you yourself think you need a warm place to stay tonight, they will help you. I know in Colony they will come out and get you. Even if you have no way to get to a shelter, someone will come and get you. Okay, so please use those phone numbers if necessary.
Keep in mind the shut-ins to people who are living alone. Have someone check on them because this is very, very dangerous without the heat. Coming up, the Gates trial continues despite this snow. We'll have a live report.
And another quake rocks California. We will be right back.
Some people think the newly announced 1.9% financing has got the jump. On everybody, not on Dodge. Now at your Dodge dealer. Get 1.9% financing or $1,000 cash back on all hot-selling 87 Aries models in stock. 1.9 or $1,000 back on Aries 2-door. 1.9 or $1,000 back on Aries 4-door. And 1.9 or $1,000 back on Aries wagon. See your participating...
Today.
I'm scrunching in my mouth. It's super good.
In McDonald's, we're tossing salads fresh all day, every day.
You name it, it's got it here.
I could run in and get a salad, and kids could get hamburgers. The chicken salad oriental. It's just like my grandmother would make.
Look at these big pieces of chicken. Look at that. And it's always been fresh any time of day. It's so fresh. What more could you want?
Tossed fresh all day. Make McDonald's salads.
I'm going to eat a lot of them.
Hi, we're Houdini. We like to say one thing to all of you. Be that crack along.
We will have more coverage of today's surprise snowstorm, but first there is a good deal of other news to report tonight. In Southern California, residents were rudely awakened this morning by a strong aftershock to last week's deadly earthquake. Today's tremor measured 5.1 on the Richter scale and is being blamed for at least one death. Tom Schell has the story.
It was just before 4 a.m. A television crew covering the earthquake cleanup was taking an arty shot of the moon. A 5.5 aftershock from Thursday's Southern California earthquake, and it resulted in more injuries and more damage, particularly to buildings damaged in the first one. Lucy Gray was in bed.
It was really a shock, but I did hop right out, got into the doorway this time, and didn't really panic too much. I just said, Lord, how much of this can we handle?
But Anna Esquivel was already awake at that early hour.
When I heard the kids screaming, I started to run, but by that time everything had already fallen. And I slipped on the water and just skidded on the glass. And I just grabbed the kids anyway and ran out the door to the sidewalk.
Later in the morning, there were outdoor services at churches now considered unsafe. The San Gabriel Mission, an historical landmark in Southern California, will need extensive repairs if it can be saved at all. Hundreds of people are now living in the streets because of damage to their homes or out of fear of being inside. Public utility crews are still working to repair damage from the Thursday quake and the series of aftershocks. Tom Schell, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Well, this has been another long day for the Columbia County Court jury deliberating the fate of accused mass murderer Wiley Gates. Despite the snowstorm, the trial did go on today, and Action News reporter Bob Lawson is back again, standing by live in Hudson with the very latest. Bob?
Marcy, it had to have been a very tedious day for the jury. Their work for the day is now over. It started about 9:30 this morning in a courthouse that was dark and cold. As you can see from some of the pictures that were taken earlier today, the jurors, especially the female jurors, were bundled up in blankets trying to protect themselves against the cold courtroom, but they managed to continue their deliberations. Here they are pictured on one of their many breaks when they had to go out and use the facilities. Also today, almost unbelievably, prisoners at the Columbia County Jail and the jurors shared the same food. There was no place else to get the food from, so Sheriff's Department personnel brought breakfast in from the jail. They repeated the process later with lunch, then tried to get portable heaters set up in the courtroom so the jurors could have at least some comfort. All in all, they deliberated on the fate of Wiley Gates for some 27 hours now. That's spread over 4 days. They did about 7 hours today. Shortly before 6 o'clock tonight, they told the judge, John Lehman, that they did not want to go on any further and they'd like to break for the evening. With me now is, Columbia County Under Sheriff Jim Bertram. Jim, getting new accommodations for the jurors because of the lack of heat and light in this county, was it difficult?
Yeah, we had a real problem, Dave, because there's no power here, so none of the motels had any heat. So we couldn't go locally. We tried Albany, and we had the same results up there. We finally ended up getting a motel in Ulster County in Kingston. So we had to hire a bus, and we're busing them down, feeding them down there, putting them up for the night, and then bringing them back in the morning.
So they're all settled in for the night, or will be shortly, and they'll resume then their deliberations tomorrow?
Yes, they will.
Any of the jurors give you any indication how they feel about going to Ulster County tonight?
No, I wasn't there I try to stay away from the jury. I was a witness in the case.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim. That's the story on how the jurors are being taken care of tonight, and it will be sometime after 11 o'clock tomorrow morning when they resume, and maybe on the 5th day, the verdict will come on Wiley Gates. Marcy?
Okay, Bob, thank you. Well, authorities in Troy are still investigating a 2-alarm fire that left 2 people dead. Flames ripped through a 3-story apartment building last night at 89 Ferry Street. Initially, it was thought that everyone had been evacuated, but when firefighters were able to get inside the building, they found the bodies of 2 women on the 3rd floor. Their identities have still not been released. The building was gutted. That cause is still under investigation.
Colony police are tonight investigating a fatal car accident. The details are just in. It was a hit-and-run pedestrian accident at the corner of routes 9 and 155 in Latham. The victim is identified as 47-year-old Richard Keenan of 4th Avenue in Waterville. Police tell me that it happened about 4 o'clock this morning, and they have no leads, no witnesses to the accident whatsoever, so they are asking the public for help. If anyone was in the vicinity at that time and saw anything out of the ordinary, they are asked to call Colony Police.
And up next, what is in store after this storm?
And meteorologist Greg Playford will also be up next with the complete forecast. Stay with us.
Breakthrough. Meet the challenge and changes of the modern business world. Join us at the Empire State Business Show, October 13th through 15th, 11 to 6 at the Empire State Plaza Convention Center, Albany.
How fast is the new Isuzu Impulse Turbo? About as 950 miles per hour sound. Faster than a speeding... Well, you know.
No late news for you tonight. You get excited. You yell at the anchorman. Have a Stella Doro breakfast treat instead.
It's not breakfast time. It's time for late news.
Oh, breakfast treats are good any time. They're nice and light and not too sweet.
And they're shaped like an S.
Uh-huh.
That stands for... Sexy?
Possible.
Stella Doro breakfast treats. They're good anytime.
Hey!
Hold it. What do you think you're doing?
Buying aspirin.
But why that brand?
It's the brand I always buy.
Faye's brand products are just as good and a lot cheaper. Go ahead, compare labels.
I can't tell a difference.
Right, and Faye's guarantees every one of its hundreds of products in writing where you get your money back.
Really?
Look, pal, would I hand you a line?
Faye's brand products. One more reason Faye's is not your average drugstore.
Obviously.
Thanks a lot, Price Chopper. Your Price Chopper brand instant winner game is nice. Prizes like free food for a year. Free Price Chopper brand, savings on Price Chopper brands. Perfect for this organization. You play, you lose. But your game, you can't lose. Every ticket wins. You don't even have to buy anything. Look at this place. We used to get a real turnout here. Well, here's one loser who's going to stay a loser. I won't play.
The Price Chopper brand instant winner game. You can't lose.
I won.
I don't think anyone correctly predicted this storm. Am I right there? I don't believe so.
Well, I don't know what any of the other forecasts were, but I think you and I talked about it
You did mention it last night,
I said that
the
it looked like
possibility.
a dangerous storm. It's in the right position, but quite honestly, I didn't think the cold air would get down to the surface. I knew the hill towns would get some snow, but forecasting 18 inches of snow in Westerlo on October 4th, you better be ready for the straitjacket. But it did happen. It was a very unusual, if you want to call it, a freak storm, early, not even wintertime. It's early autumn. It did happen. Lots and lots of moisture. The storm is moving off. And, of course, we have sunshine to report for the beginning of the work week. 42 degrees the high temperature at the Albany County Airport today with lots and lots of snow all day long. It started at the airport at about 3 a.m. in the morning, the rain mixing in with some sleet and wet snow. But the hill towns last night reported snow starting to fall around 9 or 10 o'clock. I had a call from Stan House up in East Bern. He said his back porch was already covered at the time. 42 the high for the day. That's the current temperature. 33 the low. Most of the day, the temperature stayed in the low to mid-30 range. That's why we had a lot of snow and a lot of moisture. Normals of 67 and 43, records of 86 and 26. Sunshine At the airport right now at 6 o'clock, 42 degrees. It's starting to warm up. That will start to melt again, some of the snow, but the temperature is falling down, so we do have some icy conditions to worry about later on this evening. 65% the relative humidity, a steady barometer now at 29.82, northwesterly winds at 11 miles per hour. At the airport, they've measured 16.5 inches of snow, and that melts down to a lot of water, 2.82 inches. That's a lot of heavy, wet snow. 6.5 inches to be exact. Temperatures vary quite a bit around New York State and the Northeast. Around the Capital District, they've warmed up into the low 40s. 41 up in Glens Falls, 42 in Albany. Down into the lower Hudson Valley, that's Poughkeepsie with 52. But basically from Syracuse to Rochester to the Buffalo area, they had a very nice day today. Temperatures in the upper 40s to low 50s. Currently 53 in Buffalo and 52 in Rochester. On the other side of the coin, where the clouds have stayed longer and still lots of precipitation, 39 in Concord, 37 up in Burlington, Vermont, and 49 with some of that warm air moving in off the Atlantic at Portland, Maine. Beantown checking in again with 47 degrees. Here's a satellite map, and you can see the culprit. It's right now moving out of the Gulf of Maine. Last evening, it moved in the Atlantic off the New Jersey coast. The guidance had indicated it would intensify a bit and move fairly rapidly up through the Maritimes. By this time, it should have been way up into the North Atlantic, but it did not do that. It did intensify. It intensified quite rapidly and moved very, very slowly. Circulation around it, counterclockwise around a low, brought in lots of air, northerly winds, and cool temperatures. And what I had originally thought last night, the higher elevations would see that cold air, elevations of 200, 300, 400, 500 feet above sea level. That's not a lot, but it was so strong and it moved so slowly that cold air came down to the surface. Higher elevations did get the most snowfall. Grafton, 19 inches of snow. That's not too far away from the Albany County Airport. A little bit farther to the east and to the north and up in the higher terrain, and that was the key. Westerlo checking in with 18 inches also. We do see the clearing line. We do have some sunshine or clearing skies over the Albany area right now. As the storm system lifts slowly out to the northeast, those clearing skies will happen. It'll cool off down into the mid to low 30s, and that means around the freezing mark there is certainly a lot of water around and a strong potential of some of that water to freeze later on this evening, giving some very icy roads and some dangerous driving conditions. Of course, there's a ridge of high pressure in the Mississippi Valley, and it's building our way, bringing in a good amount of sunshine during the day tomorrow, temperatures in the 60s. Our next weather change will come from this cold front that's moving down into the northern plains. We'll see warmer temperatures still on Tuesday ahead of this frontal system with sunshine to start, warming up into the mid to maybe even upper 60s. Then we'll see some clouds late in the day with more showers. But 2 days coming up after this, very unusual snowstorm temperatures warming up. We should have a good snow melt. But on the same side of the coin, with a lot of the leaves and the branches down, some of the drainage areas may get clogged up. So we may have some flooding problems also during the day tomorrow. So please take care with the ice tonight and the flooding and heavy water situation during the day tomorrow. Here's my forecast for the remainder of this evening. That is not the forecast. Let's go to basically clearing skies, and it'll be cool. Temperatures falling down into the, there we go, into the 30 to 35 degree range. Icy spots, certainly. Please take care. For tomorrow, we'll have lots of sunshine. Temperatures warmer, finally, getting up to where they should be, 60 to 65 degrees. And for Tuesday, lots of sunshine to start out the day, then increasing clouds as that cold front starts to move in. Warmer still, 66 should do it. For southern Vermont and western Massachusetts this evening, slow clearing, turning cold, lows falling down into the mid-30 degree range for tomorrow. Sun, a few clouds lingering as it's closer to that storm center. Warmer, high temperature near 60. It was not a dull day.
Boy, and Kathy Gazda mentioned earlier in the newscast, if you don't like the weather in the Northeast, just wait a minute.
Yeah, blink or take a nap.
Tomorrow,
it'll change.
60.
Sure. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Greg. Believe it or not, some 6th graders predicted this storm, or at least sort of. I shot a story with Mr. Sleeper's 6th grade class at the Farnsworth Middle School in Guilderland a few days ago, and one of the things they showed me was their collection of woolly bear caterpillars. They used those caterpillars to predict the weather, and here's what they said.
Well, there's more black on the front end, so that means that the winter's going to come early, and there's just a little black on the back end, so that means that the winter's going to come or the spring is going to come early, too.
So there you have it. Not completely accurate, but they did say it would be an early winter, and lo and behold, boom, October 4th.
You know, woolly bears are very popular in my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio.
So is snow.
Yeah.
Works out
Have
just
you
great.
been there?
Well, I've heard.
You've heard through the
Yeah.
grapevine.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, of course, we're going to have more on today's storm a little bit later on.
And just one program note, you might have noticed by now, World News Sunday has been preempted for our expanded coverage. We will be right back.
I like to complain to the bakery man who makes hot dog buns. You make them so long that when you eat your hot dog up, you still have this bun left. That isn't very neat. So I say, make your bun shorter.
How about a hot dog that's longer? New Oscar Mayer bun-length hot dogs. They're longer than regular hot dogs, so Oscar Mayer bun-length hot dogs fit your bun bite for juicy bite.
Never mind.
Relaxed, fast-paced, casual, polished, classic, au courant. Comparisons, all in the best of tastes, all describing Saratoga, the home of the automobile dealership that's beyond compare. Saratoga Honda. Visit Saratoga Honda today, and you too can live the difference.
Good morning, good morning. It's great to stay up late.
Broadway's splashy new musical is Singin' in the Rain.
Four performances at Proctor's October 14th to 16th. Partial proceeds to benefit the Arthritis Foundation. Proctor's, it's just off Broadway.
It's time for Truth or Consequences. Hi, I'm Larry Anderson, and this is Murray.
Hi.
And now, what's my favorite color? You didn't tell the truth. Here's the consequence. Snow in their living room. And for being such great sports, a brand new car. Isn't this great?
Truth or Consequences, outrageously unexpected.
Truth or Consequences, weeknights at 7:30 on TV 10.
A snowplow hit a car late this afternoon on Route 9J in East Greenbush. The snowplow was headed south when the car swerved in front of the emergency vehicle. The accident cut the car in half. 3 people were taken to Albany Medical Center. The extent of their injuries are not known at this time.
Well, joining us right now is Tim Holbert, the Communications Director of the Department of Transportation. Busy day for you, Tim, huh?
Well, it's not been so busy for me. It's been busy for the DOT crews and for the other people involved in this emergency response team.
How has everybody been how have you prepared? Did you have a chance to sort of go through what the situation could be?
Well, we do that all the time as part of the Disaster Preparedness Commission and the Emergency Management Office that's run out of the state campus. But in terms of preparing for an October 4th or October 3rd snowstorm, that's difficult. You need to know that at DOT, October, the first part of October, is still the paving season, still the summer and fall maintenance season. So all of our trucks, the trucks that we use to plow with in the wintertime, are used to pave during this time of year. But we did have some trucks ready, and we had crews call in very early because we got a little alert. It could not have happened at a worse time of year. On the other hand, it could not have happened at a better time of day or time of week. You know, it happened early in the morning. We got the crews in. We've had all day. It's a Sunday. People were smart enough to stay off the roads. And, you know, if you're driving on the roads now, they're essentially bare, clear, and open. The principal concern we have now is with clearing the fallen trees and those trees and branches which might fall. And we are working with all the various town, county, village, and city governments. We are not spending a lot of time worrying whose tree is on whose road. We're getting them cleared. We're helping the utilities because clearly the issue before us now is to deal with the onslaught of a cool night, and it'll be freezing. There could be some flooding, and we want to make sure that the power can get restored as quickly as possible, and we're helping with that.
Tim, I know you work obviously with the state crews, but there's a concern every winter when snow comes early that individual communities are going to use up their clearing money early on and have trouble later in the winter. With a storm coming this early, is that a concern?
It's always a concern. that's a concern at DOT. You don't budget for an October 4th snowstorm. You budget for the entire season, and you know, if this is any clarion of what might come, we could obviously have a tough winter. But you know, we take them one day, 1 month at a time.
And of course, you're conserving on salt because you're not really worrying about the salt. You just want to get the trees and the wires and the snow out of the way.
I don't think we used any salt today. I think the sun took care of that.
Okay, Tim, we thank you very much. Tim Hulbert from the Department of Transportation. And we will be right back.
With lots of sports, we hope the American League Eastern Division race is decided in a dramatic fashion. Steve will have the highlights.
And the Scabs take the field in NFL stadiums. We'll be right back.
No one is born with prejudice. We have to learn to fear, to doubt, to hate. Or we can learn not to. We can learn to respect the spirit and pride and dignity that we all share, and cherish the very qualities that distinguish us. By opening our hearts and minds to a whole rainbow of possibilities, we can make a world of difference.
Now at Spector's, join us as we celebrate 70 years of style. Updated traditional, classics with a new twist. That's what you'll find in Cricketeer. Cricketeer styles will carry you anywhere you need to go. And at Spector's, you'll find the latest fashions for both men and women. To arrive in style, start from Spector's with Cricketeer. See the full line from Cricketeer now at Spector's, 233 Central Avenue, Albany. Celebrating 70 years of style and service.
If you have teenage children, this message is for you.
Being a parent today is tough, what with all the negative influences on young people.
Being a teenager is worse. It's easier to talk to my friends than it is to my parents.
Sometimes they just stop talking to us altogether.
What can you do? Recognize you're not alone. Recognize your family is not unique. And most important, never forget there's hope.
None of us had time, at least those of us working in the newsroom today, to watch any sports, but I do know there was quite a big baseball game.
Came down to the last game of the season. Toronto took the pipe, you know, up 3.5 a week ago. Now they're washing the socks, you know. There we go. Detroit wins the American League East. They beat Toronto. Toronto lost its last 7 games from Detroit, where the Tigers only needed 1 run to win this one. They got it in the second. Nobody on for Larry Herndon. This one just gets out. It's a solo home run over the left field fence about 2 rows up. The Tigers win it. 1-0 was the final score. Detroit pitcher Frank Tanana goes the distance for the Tigers, a 6-hitter. Here's the final out, just a tapper back to the mound. Tanana makes the play. Detroit wins the East. The Tigers and Twins start the American League Championship Series on Wednesday. The Yankees, they finished 9 games behind Detroit in 4th place, and they close out with a loss to Baltimore. This shot symbolic of the end of the season. Baltimore's Cal Ripken broke open a close game in the 9th inning. It's 2-1 Orioles when Ripken tees off on Charlie Hudson for a 2-run home run. Yankees lose it 4-1. Now here's the way the season ended for New York. Winfield at the plate, strikes out, throws the bat, and that's all she wrote for the 87 Yankees. Meanwhile, the Red Sox also won their last game of the season. They beat Milwaukee 4-0. Boston pitcher Roger Clemens wins his 20th game. And for the 3rd consecutive season, Wade Boggs wins the American League batting title at .363. Over in the National League, the Mets go out winners. They beat St. Louis 11-6. The Mets got 5 runs in the 9th inning to win it. So the Mets will finish in 2nd place, 3 games behind the Cardinals. The Cards and the Giants begin the National League Championship Series on Tuesday. As for the NFL, the strike may be over tomorrow. Player reps will meet tomorrow night and are expected to vote to go back to work while negotiations are restarted. Some talk the players might even give up on the free agency issue. Meanwhile, some peaceful demonstrations in New York. Some peaceful demonstrations in New York at today's Jets-Dallas game at the Giants Stadium. The Giants and the Jets staged a touch football game turned into an autograph session outside the stadium. Elsewhere around the league in Philadelphia, sympathetic labor unions blocked the entrances of Veterans Stadium, tried to keep fans from getting into the game at all. As you can see, it did get a little ugly. Meanwhile, inside RFK Stadium in Washington, about 28,000 fans, about half capacity, showed up to see Washington beat St. Louis. Ed Robert at quarterback to Anthony Allen. Allen had a club record 255 yards receiving. The Redskins win it 28-21, especially interesting because St. Louis has 13 regulars in the lineup. In Buffalo, the four-man wave. I'm in rougher shape than these guys. All right, Indianapolis, they had a legitimate passing combination. Gary Hogeboom to Walter Murray. They crossed the picket lines to play in this one. On the day, Hogeboom threw 5 touchdown passes. This one to tight end Indiana Joe Jones. Indianapolis beat Buffalo 47-6. All right, let's try the scoreboard. Cleveland came from behind to beat New England. The Bearleys beat Philadelphia. Pittsburgh 28-12. San Diego by 1 over Cincinnati. Tampa Bay wins only like 4,900 at Detroit for that one. Green Bay 20-14 in the fourth. New Orleans beat the L.A. Shams. Dallas winning in the fourth quarter. Seattle and Miami still playing. The Raiders, the Masqueraders, leading Kansas City in the fourth. And, of course, the Giants play the San Francisco 49ers tomorrow night. A quick hockey note, Rangers goalie John Van Beesbrook has a broken jaw. He got hit in the mask with a slap shot yesterday in practice. Also had a tooth knocked out. He'll have the jaw wired tomorrow, but he only expects to miss a week.
Really? For a broken jaw?
The wired jaw.
Oh,
it's tough, Marcy.
That's a tough sport.
It's tough.
Almost as tough as being a sportscaster, huh? Yeah.
Back at 11.
We'll be right back.
Meet Geraldo.
My approach to television is a lot like my approach to life. It's physical, passionate, and involved.
Geraldo, a new approach to talk shows.
The truth doesn't always come to those who sit and wait. Sometimes you have to go out and find it.
Geraldo, new this fall.
Somewhere along the line, a lot of talk shows got stuck in a rut. Isn't it about time someone shook things up again?
Geraldo, definitely not all talk.
Geraldo, weekdays at 9 on TV 10.
It's a lot like having 250 people over to the house. You're nervous, you want them all to have a good time. That's very much like what we do every day of the week. We work very hard to make this unnatural environment in a television studio as comfortable as possible. And that's what we've done for 20 years.
Donahue, now at 5 on TV 10.
Well, we have just gotten word in that the governor has just declared the following counties as disaster areas. The governor has just declared these counties as disaster areas. They are Albany, Columbia, Dutchess, Greene, Montgomery, Rensselaer, and contiguous areas. So Governor Cuomo names them disaster areas. From what we hear now, that means they will be eligible for special disaster funds. Again, those counties, Albany, Columbia, Dutchess, Greene, Montgomery, Rensselaer, and contiguous areas. Marcy?
And, Greg, information is coming in so fast to our newsroom and so furiously right now that it's all impossible to get it all typed up for display on your screen. So please listen carefully now as we pass along some updated information on shelters that will be available tonight for people without heat and power. In Columbia County, the Germantown Fire Department, the Chatham Fire Department, and the Kinderhook Fire Department will be providing shelter. In Saratoga County, the Vishers Ferry Fire District, the West Crescent Fire District, Galway Fire District, and the Maple Avenue Fire Districts will be taking in people without heat or lights. Also, the Waterford Rescue Squad will have shelter facilities. In Albany County, the Waterville Senior Citizen Center will be taking in storm victims. In Schenectady County, the following shelters will be available: the First Baptist Church of Scotia, Rotterdam Fire District Number 2 on Curry Road, the Glenville Hill Fire District, and the Niskayuna Fire District Number 1, and the Schenectady Red Cross at 80 South Church Street. And, Greg, those are for you.
Okay, Marcy, also in Albany County, facilities will be open for hot showers tonight. Dick Barrett tells me you can go to the Bleecker Stadium Clubhouse, the Lincoln Park Bathhouse, the Washington Park Clubhouse, the VI Community Center, Bathhouse number 2 in the South End, and Bathhouse number 3 on Central Avenue. Those facilities have heat and hot water, but if you wish to sleep there, you will have to bring your own bedding. So again, if you don't have heat, you might want to check out some of those facilities. Additional temporary shelters can be found at the Schodack Fire Hall, in the Ellesmere Fire Hall, the Slingerlands Fire Department, the Selkirk Fire Department, the Verdoy Fire Department, and at the Latham Fire Halls 1 and 2. That just about does it, but I think we do have time to check back in with meteorologist Greg Playford for one last look at all this weather. Greg?
Well, enough of the bad news. Let's look at the good news. These are the national forecasted high temperatures. Tomorrow, 60s throughout much of the Ohio Valley, up into the northeast, to the Great Lakes. Only cool spot, really, up in the Arrowhead region, the northern Minnesota area. 60s back over into the northern plains. A big area of 70s covering much of mid-country, up into the Pacific Northwest, down the lower Mississippi Valley. But it's going to get mild, and then we're going to have a snowmelt. So get ready for lots of water. We'll be back at 11 with an updated forecast.
Okay, Greg, thank you very much, and that will just about do it from here.
Quite a day.
It has been. We will, of course, have much more tonight at 11. We'll continue to follow the power situation and bring you up to date on the very latest at 11.
Absolutely. We thank you for joining us, and we'll see you later. Good night.
Good night.